Hi everybody, so I prepared the presentation in Spanish, so I will speak in Spanish. This project is called Overcoming Empathy Falls to Overcome Reality. It's experimental for Colombia. I'm going to be presenting, let me see. So I'll present some summaries, preliminary. So as Andres said, in his work with Emil Bruno, with the former FARC combatants, this project it takes part of that they did and builds on that, and we add an additional dimension. So there we see an additional dimension that is seen including Venezuelan migrants in Colombia. So I think yesterday you saw the video of the former combatants, so I'm gonna show you a piece of the video we prepared that has the same structure, and actually we did it with the same person, Juan Casas, who is here in Bogotá last year. So this project was gonna get started with the pandemic. It was totally interrupted, but finally we were able to move on. And this video we prepared last year in the Ciudad Bolívar in Bogotá. So I'll be showing you just a few minutes of this video. So I was living my whole life thrown away to come to a place I didn't know, and the situation of migrants is hard. It's hard because you don't know what you will have to face. Mm, you don't know what you will go through, what experience you will live, because it's a country that is very different, different cultures to ours. The kind of food, the even the way we talk and everything is quite different, and sometimes it's hard to adapt ourselves. But little by little, we have been adapting, and we have shared with many people who appreciate us, who have helped us, and in the hardest moments. Now I feel more relaxed. I feel better. It has gone very well. Yeah, thanks God. So I have worked. Sometimes 3 days, 4 days. Neighbors have behaved really nice with some children. The children, the treatment. There hasn't been any indifference, and on the contrary, they are helpful. Some Colombians support us, and when they see us that we are Venezuelans, they see us with the kids, they give us some aid. So fortunately, thanks to God, I have always found beautiful people who help us with that, and thanks God, today my kids have a study. This neighborhood and this country have been a blessing. I am thankful to Colombia and to the places where I have been, because at least they have given me a hand. Thanks to also some foundations who have been over there, have helped us, and the kids they get a lot of activity. Yeah, I have been treated very well by our neighbors. They love me a lot. Yes, they do. I hope Cap Colombia keeps supporting me. giving me that support. They have given me not so much in the material aspect, but also in the welcoming and caring. Thank you very much for receiving us. A lot of people give us a hand, help us. They never abandon us. Those Colombians who are nice people, humble, honest. Thank you very much. At least my daughter is in 10th grade,
Graduarse,
so
quiero que
now
estudie una carrera y
we
que
graduate in 1 year. And yeah, yeah, even if it's working for this country and to become a good citizen. So we are talking about this migration flow that is part of the history of population in our regions in Colombia. And it wasn't a few people that in the 70s Colombians migrated to Venezuela seeking opportunities. And I don't find a single person who have migrated to Venezuela who said over there they mistreated me. I think that migrants they want to change, they want to improve the living condition. People who migrate because they want to improve, they want to become better people. Yeah, yeah. I mean, many migrants think that coming here is a better opportunity to keep their life going. That's the way we have to think about migrants, that they are people who come here to redo their lives. I think that they is good for me about how willing they are to progress in this city in Colombia, and they want to work, and they should think about that, but also about what they left in the nation. They want to bless their families. They want to be able to help them. They are human beings, men, women. Okay, so I'll stop there. So this was the video.
Al de los excombatientes, entonces
The video of former combatants. So it shows testimonies of Venezuelans in Colombia, talks about his life in Colombia, and also has interviews with people in the communities, like Colombians in the community, who have related themselves to migrants. Also, some authorities. So we had somebody from the mayor's office in Bogotá, and people in the thank you from the Jesuit refugee service who have also helped migrants. So it will follow the same structure, takes the same time or similar. So in this work, we were very interested in thinking about what can promote a pro-sociality or pro-social behaviors. And we know that the theory shows us that it's a key for the political and economic development. So pro-sociality reduces social inefficacy of the incomplete contracts. It can be good to solve collective action issues, and it can determine the policy of integration policies. And in practice also they are valuable because they improve efficacy in relationships, and empathy amongst the citizens is a key mechanisms to achieve better results when cooperation. So in this example that we have over here, we have conflicts amongst the groups, Colombians, migrants, and civils and former combatants. So there are communities in Colombia that face arrival of individuals that can be perceived as non-wanted. So it can be former combatants and Venezuelan migrants. And for example, the surveys should every time less support to receiving Venezuelan migrants in Colombia. And we also know very little about how promoting pro-sociality towards those groups in larger scale. And here there's a little bit part of this idea of the intervention that is something that could be done in a larger scale. But there is some information of pro-sociality towards refugees in Germany. There are some interventions with media to former combatants. So, and towards the former combatants, that is the work um, and specifically for migrant Venezuelan migrants in Colombia using videos. So, and from the economic policy, we are interested about the elements that drive uh, preferences for redistribution. So the theory talks about how people, according to the distribution of income, support more or less redistribution. So if they are people who are to the left of redistribution of revenue or income, so we would expect them to support a higher redistribution. Those in the right, not so much. Also, we see that the perception is important, not only about the real position, but the perception of that position. I think that with the recent debate, for example, the tax reform, or where they are talking about the distribution of income in Colombia, many people are realizing that distribution of income is different of what they thought. And in general, that's what the surveys find. People do not know very well the distribution of income and where they are in that scale of redistribution. Generally, people of high income, they think they are more in the center of the distribution, and people of low income actually they think that they are a little higher in the distribution. So everybody thinks that they are closer to the average. And then these studies show like when the people are aware of the position in distribution, they change their preferences. Also, there are studies about how the ideology influences those preferences and how the presence of migrants has an influence on preferences. So Alberto Alesina and others like Stephanie Sencheva have worked on redistribution preferences, and one of those things is like what happens when people are aware of the presence of migrants. So there they see that people overestimate the presence of migrants in the country, and when they become aware about the migrants in the country, uh, or that there's migration in this country, they support less redistribution. So all of these influences on the support to redistribution policies, the support for the government to invest in helping these groups. So we had this multidisciplinary approach, and we saw economics of behavior, neuroscience. Then we have this mediatic intervention, that is the video that I showed you, and the video of former combatants that is based in social psychology. And this video was specifically designed for this intervention. The idea is we seek to improve empathy towards Venezuela migrants and to former FARC combatants via information and learning. So for them to see how their life is back then in this moment, and how people who relate with them like support those opinions. We want to improve empathy. And then these 5 minute videos. And then we want to see from economics and from cognitive deficiency. So we see the underlying cognitive process underlying to the prosocial judgment. So seeing the trajectory, what Santiago presented yesterday. So the idea is in the process of decision making of the movement of the finger, how we can see the effect of the videos in the making the decision about how much to transfer to the other player. So in the Venezuelan migrant crisis is the larger crisis in Latin America and the larger in the world. So there's more in Colombia. I think that there are around 2 million Venezuelans here, but there have been more. And so here what we want to see is we want to see like the effect of the videos about the relationship of Colombians with average Colombian with former combatants and Venezuelan migrants out of representative sample of 839 people. We compared with their relationship and behavior to average Colombians, so low income and internal IDPs. So IDPs have in common with migrants that they have migrated, they have moved from their homes, and they relate also to the conflict. And we measured empathy and prosociality. So, and we see the effect of this intervention on empathy and prosociality and social bias. And one of the advantages of our example is that it was used, if it comes from the panel of the worldwide survey of the 2018-2021, where they ask questions about COVID pandemics and also questions in this survey. And we're interested in public policy questions. So, what determines the support to reintegration and redistribution in favor of former FARC combatants and migrants? So, how's this? So, we did it with tokens, equivalent like $2, and there are four activities. So, the first player has these tokens to share. Trust game is 3 tokens, and we have the uh, different income distribution based on luck and based on merit. So I will explain the two distributions of income and the players. So what we are interested in the players they just know about the following characteristics. If it's a low socioeconomic level, the level of education, that would be secondary and incomplete high school, and if it's one of those four characteristics. Since, since any of them were different, and IDPs, former combatant, or migrant, Venezuelan migrant. So, activity 3, that is the redistribution, would like player 1, player 2 and 3, take into account both each one of one task, and they get a payment, but randomly to one of the two players they get 5 additional tokens, and player 1 may decide whether they want to redistribute the 5 tokens each one of the players got in favor of the other. They can say decide not to redistribute anything or and getting 5 tokens. The other activity, that is redistribution with merit. So here just one of the two players has the opportunity to work and do that task and gets that payment of 5 tokens. Player 1 has the option to redistribute from 2 in favor of 3. So 3 didn't do the task, they didn't have the opportunity that they can get redistribution. So here there are two ways to redistribute. So player 1 is the one who decides, but they don't get any benefit from those decisions. And player 1 knows the characteristics of the other two players, and what we are interested in seeing is the decisions of player 1. So, activity 3, 7 decisions, because they can randomly be assigned to the average Colombian, and or they can play 2 Colombians together. They can be displaced, former combatant, and migrant, and in the merit we always have that the one doing the activity and getting the payment is the player without any additional characteristics, average Colombian person. And then we had a first, we did the activities with players 2 and 3, those who could be migrants, former combatants, or displaced people, and then we had a phase 2, that was having the games with player 1, and we did this in a sample of 139 participants online. So that was a switch that we had to do due to the pandemic in Quatrix, and then player 1 is randomly allocated to a treatment group. So the treatment group can be that they don't see anything, or they see a neutral video about tourism, that is the same one used in other studies of meal and dress, and they can watch either the migrant video or the former combatants video. In average, the activity lasted for 70 minutes, and in the end, one of the activities was chosen, and they allocated the payment to people, so they got a payment for participation, also for the activity. So here we have the 4 treatments, and then this One of the advantages of this study, one of the things that contributes to this study, is that we can replicate what Emil and Andres did in the study with former combatants. So we use the same questions they have about dehumanization, evident dehumanization, meta perceptions, collective guilt, empathy, threat. So it's different ways in which we can measure how people perceive the former combatants and migrants and the level of empathy they have towards them. But we also did the economic experiments. That is a little bit of what I'm going to talk about more. So we some then we have to measure prosociality. So we have the expectations about altruism, trust, and redistribution, and we have the answers to the responses of the work value survey. And we can see as a support the support to the integration policy. So the hypothesis, the first one is that the citizens are less pro-social towards former combatants or migrants, but the exposure to these interventions or to the videos will increase empathy and pro-sociality of citizens. So in the preliminary results, we see that for all kind of players, the videos of former combatants and migrants increase the transferences in the game of the dictator and trust, increase the distribution in favor of migrants and former combatants in the play of distribution with luck, and the effect was higher for migrants with the video of migrants. We also have that the video of migrants improved trust towards all the actors in the game of trust, and in the game of redistribution with luck, the videos of migrants and former combatants increased redistribution in favor of all the kind of players, no matter the group. So we saw that, let me show you, and exposure to the migrant video humanizes the migrants. The exposure to the video of former combatants humanizes the former combatants and affects attitudes and empathy measures. So we have the game of the dictator, and we have the first column, 2, and the column 2 is when they are citizens who doesn't have additional characteristics. So the former combatants and 5 migrants. So we see that the videos increased transferences not only in favor of the group the video is about, but also about the other groups.
En confianza vemos
In trust, we see that especially that happens with the video of migrants, but for the video of former combatants, increases trust in former combatants, and in the game of redistribution with luck, we see that the video of former combatants increased the redistribution in favor of former combatants, and the video of refugees and migrants increases redistribution towards former combatants and migrants. And with a merit, the video of migrants favors migrants and the former combatants and the fear. And the other video, this is much more preliminary. We see that the players more to the right in the political ideology usually transfer many games, trust and redistribution with lack, and transfer more to immigrants in the game of redistribution with merit. And the video of former combatants, yep, increases transferences for former combatants, and the video of migrants increases more for those to the right. So people more to the right, we saw that the video had a higher for. In terms of the level of revenue, we see that the players in high income level transfer more in the game of the dictator and trust, and the game of redistribution with merit transfer less those who are high income. And they say that trust in the public entities, public officers, we see that these people transfer more in the game of the dictator of trust and distribution with merit. And we see that the people, since something has been donated, so I have been voluntary and other questions, and then we see that players transfer more in the game of dictator and trust, and that the video of former combatants increases in trust and altruism towards former combatants, and the video of migrants, yep, towards migrants, etc. And so from there on, we want to see the longer term effects, exploring much more the questions of dehumanization that we haven't done, and see if we could, if it would be good to escalate this kind of intervention. And we recognize, well, Emil Brunard contributed a lot, and Nicolas Velasquez, who is here, our research assistant. Thank you.